All right, everyone, we are recording once again. Thank you so much for joining this session about understanding seller financing for buyers who are looking to own property in Belize, specifically geared towards foreign buyers. This is a very important conversation for us to be having because the traditional bank financing that we may be used to in North America or our home countries is not standard here in Belize. So, if you've listened to me before, you know that I usually am in San Pedro or Cayo. Today, I am in Key Cocker. We have an open house today. We've co-listed a new condo project here with another real estate company, Premier Realty. Giselle is the broker of it. Giselle is one of my good friends here in Belize. And so if you haven't been to Key Cocker yet, I do want to give you a little sneak peek. I'm here in her office now, but I do want to give you a sneak peek. It is such a cute and charming little town. You may be able to see it. Let me stop sharing my screen for a second because then I think you'll be able to see it. But it's a very, very cute and charming little town right over here. Oh, look at that. Some friendly people as well. Awesome. Well, all right, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for this session. We are going to get started and talk about what that seller financing process looks like for foreigners. Again, a very important conversation for us to be having because it is different than the traditional financing. So with that, we're going to share this again and jump right into it. So if you're new to Belize, Belize is a small country about the size of Massachusetts, population-wise about 400,000. But within Belize, there are very different areas, very different regions. It feels very different. The topography, the geography, the main attraction in these areas really is different. So Ambergris Caye tends to be the #1 destination that foreigners look at when they're looking at property overseas. It produces the largest percentage of tourism revenue for the entire country. About 70% of the tourism revenue for this entire country is generated here from Ambergris Caye. But there's other areas within the country. Obviously, Key Cocker, this island is where we're currently at. The Cayo district, this area is known for its jungles, Mayan ruins, cave tubing. You can see some pictures here, Mountain Pine Ridge, the Blue Hole. This is the Cayo version of the Blue Hole, which is essentially, it's a cenote and a waterfall. It's really, really beautiful. But, and then the other Blue Hole that you've probably seen on images before is right over here. So again, a lot going on in the country for being so small at only 400,000 people. But what you'll tend to find is if you're looking to relocate to live here, that there may be one area that speaks to you more than another. So if you're planning to live here and spend considerable time, I always recommend hopping on that plane, spending some time here in the country, going to check out the different areas. If you're primarily looking for investment, or you're looking to land bank where you hold on to land, let it appreciate and sell it down the line, typically you'll be looking here on Ambergris Caye. This is where the cash flow currently is, and this is where we're seeing the highest rates of appreciation. But again, a lot going on in the country, but just depends ultimately on what your goals are. So why people are owning property in Belize, there's a variety of reasons. One is that you as a foreigner would receive title to your property. So the land is fully titled. You'll be working with a closing company during that closing process. They'll always do a title check for you to ensure that the title on the property matches what is in the sales agreement and that title is clear and free of any liens or charges. So you have that security there of knowing that it's yours. It's your property. You own it. There's no lease here. It belongs to you. You can decide what you want to do with it down the line for your heirs. In addition to that, there's low property tax, very low property tax. So for an example, a standard 100 by 50 lot, 100 feet by 50 lot, so 5,000 square foot, that lot is typically going to be in the range of $100 to $150 US per year for property tax. Very, very low. In addition to that very low income tax, our income tax on rental property here is 1.75%. 1.75%. And then we also have 0% capital gains tax in Belize. So your own country may have its own tax laws, but here in Belize, if you own a property today for 75,000, you sell it for 125,000, there's a 0% capital gains tax on that $50,000 gain here in Belize. So it's another reason why many people are attracted to investing here. And then easy estate planning. So this is one of the big reasons as well. As an owner, you are able, or as an owner on the title, the owner of the property, you are able to easily pass it on to your heirs down the line. It does not necessarily even need to be in a company in order to do that, but it is easy enough to pass it down to heirs down the line. But again, it's a very diverse country. There are a lot of different opportunities here, and you may find that one region speaks to you more, but these tend to be the top 5 reasons why people are even looking at the country to begin with. So as we mentioned, Belize is primarily a cash market. It has been since as long as real estate has been sold here to foreigners. And so what that means is when you're looking at real estate opportunities, take out what we traditionally know is when we think, oh, I can put 10% down or 20% down, because that is not the reality here. Because it is a cash market, it does tend to be pretty stable. There's been a lot of volatility all around the world, of course, during certain times, recessions, interest rates going up and down and all over the board like a roller coaster. But here, because it's primarily a cash market, we tend to see stability. Now, with that being said, I don't want to deter you from looking at properties overseas, because there are some considerations. There are some options for you as a foreigner to find financing. So in a cash market, let's take a look at what is possible for you if you're going to need that extra money. So number one is there's typically seller or developer financing. I would say about 20 to 25% of the people who are selling their property, those sellers will entertain seller financing of some sort. Standard terms, 50% down, a 3 to 5 year term, interest rate typically 8 to 10%, and no prepayment penalty. So you can prepay that loan off at any time without paying any penalties on that. Again, it's about 20 to 25% of the sellers are willing to entertain this. Others are going to be looking for cash. Now, I put developer financing here and well, because if you're looking at a pre-construction or under construction property, that contract or that developer may offer developer financing. This is not always the case, but it can be, and typically it's going to be along these terms here. In addition to that, this is what we saw a lot of people doing over COVID, was getting a line of credit or a HELOC at their bank in their home country. So what they found is that getting a loan or getting money in their home country was possible and had a lower interest than trying to find seller financing in Belize. Now, your traditional bank in US or Canada or wherever is home for you is not going to give you a loan for your property in Belize, but they may give you a line of credit. They may give you a second mortgage or a mortgage against your primary home in that country, and then you can take that money to use it as a cash purchase in Belize. Again, this was popular with our clients during COVID. We don't see as much of it now because we saw the interest rates have gone up, but it is an option, especially when you are seeing that financing interest terms tend to be about 8 to 10%. The third option here is working with an international bank. There's one international bank in the entire country of Belize that will finance for you as a foreigner. They're based in San Pedro. Key International Bank is the name of them. They have the 50% down. So this is what we were mentioning before in option number one. It's a 10-year term, so longer than the traditional seller financing. They'll do up to a 20-year amortization, but it's still going to be a 10-year term. So a 10-year balloon where you have to pay off the balance at the 10th year. And interest is higher. Interest is 11%. There are additional fees that are associated with a bank. So for example, you're gonna have the loan origination fee, which you see there at 2.35%. You have to open a bank account with KeyBank as well. So there's the cost to get that set up. And then they have monthly fees of about $20 a month. And then they'll also charge what they call charge fees, which is essentially a process of putting a lien against a property while you're financing it. So these are considerations. Of course, do note that KeyBank will not finance raw land. They will not finance raw land. They will finance construction, and they will also finance a property that's already complete. There's a list of items that they require in order to even look at the financing for you, but you can always go to their website, or we can do an email introduction to their loans officer for you to get additional information there. So ways to get creative, but first and foremost, I'd say the most popular option is somebody who's looking for seller or developer financing. It also tends to be the easiest. So what we tend to see is there is something called the balloon, and I'm going to talk about what this balloon means because I did mention it on the previous slide. So if you're trying to get your payments to be reduced, your monthly payments to be reduced, you can amortize your loan over a longer period of time, but there's going to be a balloon payment that's due at a certain time. So let me give you a couple of examples. And I'm going to go back to here, for example, because you might be able to visualize it a little bit better. So if you're taking out a loan for 50%, so 50% down, the amortization term is going to be 20 years, but the balloon is going to be 10 years. So your monthly payments are going to be based on a 20-year schedule, but you're going to have to pay that loan off, that term off, by the 10th year. So I have a couple of examples that I'm going to show to you, but you're going to hear us talk about a balloon quite a bit. And what that helps to do is reduce the monthly amounts You're going to have a larger amount to pay off at the end, but tends to be popular for people who are going to be selling a primary residence or selling an Airbnb home, and they need a little bit of time to gather the money. They'll do a longer amortization, so they have smaller monthly payments, get that property sold, and then pay off the property in full. So they're not necessarily going the entire term anyway. But again, I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So let's take a look at this. This is a property. It's $350,000. The standard terms here are 50% down. In this example, we did a 5-year term, 8% interest, no balloon. So it's straight payments over a 5-month or a 5-year term, and no prepayment penalties. Again, no prepayment penalties tends to be pretty standard. So this is an example for a $350,000 property. Amount down, you're putting $175,000 down. The loan amount is going to be $175,000. Again, that's standard 50%. Interest rate, we're giving the example here at 8%. Amortization is over a 5-year period, no balloon, so it's also over a 5-year period, and it's not interest only. Tends to not be interest only in most cases here. So your monthly payment is going to be $3,500, about $3,500, $3,548.37. Your last payment is going to be $3,548.31. You're going to be paying over this 5-year period, you're going to be paying about $37,000 worth of interest. Now, let's say after the 6th month, you sell that property that you wanted to sell, then you can pay off the entire balance without having any penalties, without having to pay the balance of the interest that you see here. You see total interest, you wouldn't have all of that interest paid because you paid it off early. Now let's look at what it looks like when you have a balloon. So this is going to be, again, that $350,000 property. Down, you're putting $175,000. So your loan amount, again, is going to be $175,000. We're using the same interest rate at 8%. Your amortization is going to be over a 20-year period. So we're spreading out those monthly payments over a 20-year period. However, the term is only going to last for 5 years. So what that means, at the end of the 5th year, we need to pay off that balance. So you can see the monthly payments come down about $2,000. So they're $1,463. That's what you're going to be paying on a monthly basis. But your balloon payment at the end of the 5th year is going to be $154,000. So you can see over the 5 years, you've only paid down about $20,000 of that principal, because you see the amount down. We have a loan amount over here, $175,000. And over here, we're at about $155,000 of what needs to be paid at the end of the 5th year. During this 5-year period, you paid about $65,000 of interest. So you can see when you're amortizing it over a longer term, you're going to be considering more interest in that, but you're going to have a lot more flexibility with your monthly payments in the sense it's going to be lower. But again, this is a great option for somebody who's planning to come into a larger chunk of money, because you're going to have that time to gather it, and then you can pay off the loan, to pay off the principal at the time that money comes in. I hope this makes sense. I know it gets a little confusing with all the terms over here, but we do have this spreadsheet where you can just change any of the inputs, and then you can see in the summary what the numbers would look like. We're happy to send that over to you. So let's go through what happens when you decide you want to put an offer in on a property that has seller financing. So your realtor will complete the offer to purchase for you. Both parties will sign off on it as long as everything looks good. You as the buyer will put 10% of the amount in as your earnest deposit into the closing company's escrow account. During this time, the closing company is also going to complete a promissory note. They'll send it to you, and they'll send it off to the seller to sign off on. The promissory note is the binding agreement for the both of you and this loan that the seller is going to be taking on. Now, let's say all the contingencies are cleared, you close. Typically, those monthly payments will begin the month following close, because it's not uncommon for there to be delays in closing and everything along those lines. You typically see in the agreement that the loan payments are going to begin the first of the month following closing. Now, what you always want to do is ensure that you and the seller know how you're going to be sending the money. This is important to do, I would even say, before that first of the month, because you want to make sure you have everything squared away. It's easiest, I would say, if you have a Zelle or Cash App or PayPal, and both parties do, because there are typically no fees on either end. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in the next few slides. Step 3, though, let's say you send the monthly payment. You want to make sure you're confirming in writing to the seller that you have paid the monthly payment, and you want to make sure it's acknowledged by the seller as well. You want written record of everything that is coming and going to the seller. And then once the property is paid off in full, you and the seller will notify the closing company, and the closing company will transfer the title to you. So this is important to realize. If you are taking advantage of seller financing, the title of the property is not transferred over until you have paid off in full. The closing company will hold on to that physical title so the property can't be sold again, but the closing company is the one that's going to be facilitating this transaction in addition during this closing process, but also once the property is paid off in full. So what you should be expecting in terms of costs when you're taking advantage of seller financing. You as the buyer, you're going to be paying the closing costs on the property. It's an 8% stamp tax and about a 2% closing company fee. I say about 2% because each closing company is a little bit different, but in total, you're looking at about 10% in closing fees. So that is not included in the purchase price. When you see a listing price, this is not included. So you always want to add an additional 10% in. In addition to that, there'll be charge fees. So when you're working with the closing company, they're going to ask if you want to put a charge against the property, which is essentially a lien to ensure that the property is not sold again. In addition to that, you're going to have escrow costs because the closing company is holding on to that physical piece of paper, and that physical title is required to close in this country. So with that closing company holding on to that physical title, that is going to be a fee that you have to pay for. Typically, it's about $175 to $200 US a year. Any wire fees, this is again important to understand how it is you're going to be paying the seller, because if it's going to be through a traditional wire, you'll typically have outgoing fees and that seller is going to have incoming fees. So this is why that Cash App or Zelle or PayPal is going to be important. And then typically one FedEx fee. So the closing company is going to mail you physical documents to sign in front of a notary, and then you're going to put that in FedEx or through FedEx to get to the next party. Please don't ever send mail to Belize or to another person with your legal documents via US Postal Service or your country's postal service. It takes a long time. I've known too many people to get their documents lost. They have to go through this whole process again. And if you're trying to mail something back to Belize through the traditional USPS, it can take 2 to 3 months. And there's no guarantee that it gets here. There's no notification when it arrives. So it's just much safer for everybody for you to be putting it through FedEx. And then the seller is responsible for paying the commissions for both the buyer's agent and the seller's agent, and they will also have that FedEx fee. All right, let me give you a couple of tidbits if you are taking advantage of seller financing. And I started to allude to this before, but the title for the property is not transferred until the property has been paid off in full. At the time of the final payment, you're going to notify the closing company. The seller is going to confirm. They are going to also ask where the payments went. So that's why it's, again, just good to screenshot any payment that is sent, and then the titling process will ensue. So again, the closing company is very integral in all of this. I wouldn't necessarily recommend seller financing without that middleman, without that closing company in between, because they're the ones who are making sure that the transaction is moving forward. In addition, we started to allude to this as well, but payments typically start the first of the month following closing. Like I mentioned, it's not uncommon for closings to get delayed here because there is that physical mailing of documents. People are on vacation, people maybe filled out a form wrong, whatever it is, but do expect for the payments to start the first of the month following closing. And we did mention this too, but make sure you're communicating with the seller about how you anticipate sending the funds. This introduction typically happens after the close. So once the agreed upon amount has been deposited into escrow, once all the contingencies are cleared, then you're going to close on the property. You get possession of it. It's yours. That physical title hasn't been transferred over yet, but you still have possession and it is considered yours. So you'll be introduced to the seller at this point, and then from there, you'll want to communicate how it is that you anticipate sending funds. And then, like we said, log all of your payments to the seller, send written confirmation when sent, and make sure you're getting written confirmation back that they have received it. With this, what I'm also going to say is, get to know the seller a little bit. I know that's pretty unconventional in many real estate transactions, but because this is a binding relationship in a sense where you are sending money to them, they're taking the money from you to give you the property, you do want to get to know the seller a little bit. What I always recommend is having a backup person to send the money to, have them introduce you or give you the contact information for somebody else just in case something happens to that. And as the seller, if you're on the back end, you're the seller, what you want to do is make sure your heirs and your estate knows about the seller financing so that it can continue even after you pass, if that happens during this process. So very important. And then last but not least, this is really, really important for you to know as a buyer. If you don't pay for typically more than 45 days, the seller can take back the property, and the buyer, you as the buyer, would forfeit any money that has been already paid. So you want to make sure that you're not getting in over your head with this purchase. You want it to still be a comfortable purchase amount or monthly amount for you to be able to send to the seller on a monthly basis, because typically after 45 days, maybe 60 days of non-payment, then the seller can take back that property. And that communication that happens is directly through the closing company, where the seller will notify the closing company that the payments haven't been made, and then they can begin that process. So this is why it's really important too for you to log every single payment to ensure that everybody is on the same page. I have for you 7 opportunities that are offering seller financing. Again, only about 20 to 25% of the sellers are willing to entertain seller financing. Typically, these sellers tend to be a little bit more investment minded. They may not necessarily need 100% of the cash upfront, whereas some people, they're not necessarily willing to seller finance. They may be a little bit older. They don't necessarily want to be tracking the payments, and they just want to maybe be done with the property. So it's really important for you to communicate with your real estate agent if you are going to need seller financing, because like we mentioned, it's only for a limited amount of properties on the market today. With that being said, let's go through 7 opportunities here. If you are interested in learning about any of them, you'll see at the top part of the screen the opportunity number. Just email us. The email address at the bottom part of the screen, info@lunarealtybelize.com, info@lunarealtybelize.com, and just put the opportunity number in the email so that we're ensuring that we're sending you the right opportunity. And just mention the financing webinar so that we ensure we're referring also to the right session. And we are doing this on March 29th, 2025. So if you're listening to this at a later date, this opportunity may not be available, but again, just reach out to us for the latest information. So we're going to talk about opportunities here, 7 opportunities. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put that into the Q&A section of the control panel, and we'll get those answered for you. So this is a project that I'm a big believer in. Platinum Point is located about 8.5 miles north. This is in the heart of the path of progress. And this is an opportunity that I think is for somebody who's looking to land bank for some time. You're not necessarily looking to cash out next year. This is ideal for like a 5-year, at least a 5-year buy and hold, and then be able to sell it from there. Property tax minimal at about $125 US a year. But what I really like about this property and this location of the Platinum Point subdivision is that you're in that heart of the Newtown area. Right over here, you can kind of see it, but there's land that has been cleared for a future hospital, a future school. When that happens, we don't necessarily know, but there already has been the momentum and movement of people moving up to this area of the island, because the downtown San Pedro area is just getting very congested. Land prices are at all-time highs, so it's very hard for somebody who's looking for a modest lot, a modest property, to be able to find something. The government gave out about 400 parcels of land to locals to be able to help them get started on building their home. And so that's what you're going to find in this area over here, which is fantastic for the economy, fantastic to have labor up in this Newtown area. But again, this is the Platinum Point subdivision. It's a corner lot. This developer is awesome. She is bringing electricity out to the entire subdivision. She also has road access already here, and she is willing to finance the clearing and the filling of the property. So this is, I think, fairly unheard of on the island. Typically what happens is you purchase a lot, and then after the transaction, when you're going to clear and fill it, the seller has nothing to do with it anymore, right? They're gone. But this developer is willing to do that for you. So if this is something that is of interest to you, do reach out. This lot's going for $58,500. It's about 5,500 square feet, and she's offering 70% financing. It's a 5-year term, a 30-year amortization. So you have those smaller monthly payments, but you'll have the balloon payment at the end of the 5th year, and it's 8% interest. So down, you're going to be putting $17,550, monthly payments a little over $300 a month, and then your balloon payment is going to be about $16,000. Now, just to note too, you do not need to have the amortization be so long. If you're able to make higher monthly payments, you can do that, and you're not going to have such a large balloon payment at the end. But this just gives you a little bit of flexibility if you need it over that 5-year period. Again, opportunity number 1 at Platinum Point. Opportunity number 2, this is also located on the north side of the island. This is about 9 miles north, Fisherman's Cove at Brasselet Key. And if you can follow my cursor, Secret Beach is down here about 4 miles. So we're about 4 miles north of where Secret Beach is, with the beautiful turquoise waters, shallow. It's a prime fly fishing area over here. So this is really ideal for somebody who wants to buy and hold, perhaps sell it later on down the line to somebody who's thinking about a fly fishing camp or just wants to be in the tranquil areas. We know Ambergris Caye is getting developed. It's getting built at a very rapid rate. There's been a lot of talk about the expansion of utilities in the northward direction. There was a whole plan, a $250 million plan over a 20-year period to build out the infrastructure on the north side of the island. So this is really that ideal buy and hold if you want something on the water and just to hold on to it that's still affordable. This is a subdivision that I found really tends to be the most affordable waterfront properties with financing. So these lots, they range from 95,000 to about 110,000, but lot number 5 specifically, it's one of the larger ones over here at about 7,500 square feet, going for 97,000. And this one, this seller is offering 70% financing over a 10-year period with 8% interest. So down, you're looking close to $30,000. Your monthly payment is going to be $823.81. And there's no balloon payment because it's going to just be a flat 10-year term, 10-year amortization, 10-year term. So there are other options here. These second row lots are going for $45,000. If that is something that is a little bit more palatable for you, but reach out and we can always send you the numbers. This is opportunity number 2, Fisherman's Cove, located about 9 miles north on the west side of Ambergris Caye. All right, opportunity number 3. This one is just hitting the market. I'm very excited about this. This is one of my favorite neighborhoods here on Ambergris Caye, and it's a 2-minute walk. This parcel right over here, it's a 4th row lot. It's a 2-minute walk to the Caribbean. You go right down here, you're at the Caribbean waters, 15 minutes to Secret Beach via this direction right over here. You can go down south and be in town in 15 minutes, or you can continue up the northward road to go north. The reef is right over here, a prime neighborhood where you're finding larger or nicer, rather, single family homes. Tends to be more expats who are living up here or people who have their home in the rental market and the Airbnb. He's offering this for $110,000 and he's offering 75% financing, a 10% interest and a 10-year term. So one of the longer terms when it comes to seller financing. Down, it's $27,500. Monthly payments a little over $1,000, and no balloon payment because this is a 10-year term, a 10-year, no balloon, 10-year term. So this is a great one. Again, this one's just hitting the market. Again, one of my favorite neighborhoods, but something else to note is right over here, they're building a gas station and a convenience store. So this is really nice to have right nearby in the growing Spanish Reef area. This is opportunity number 3. It's parcel 4522 in Spanish Reef. All right, opportunity number 3 is actually here on Caye Caulker. So I'm currently at Caye Caulker, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. We're visiting one of our broker friends that we have a co-listing with, and it is this property right here, Ruby Villas. This is the only true condo project south of the split. So where I'm currently at, it's in the downtown San Pedro area. Those of you who were on earlier, you gotta peek at what the streets look like here. Still the sandy streets all throughout the downtown. Colorful buildings here, very charming Caribbean feel, what you may expect when you hear the go slow mentality. But this developer is just bringing his product to the market. It's only 7 condos in total, 3 1-bedrooms and 4 2-bedrooms. And he has the 1-bedrooms on the ground floor and then the 2-bedrooms on the second and the third floor. The 4th floor is an open veranda for all of the homeowners and residents. And you look right out, you're 1 block from the Caribbean. So you have the Caribbean on one side, you're only a couple of blocks from the lagoon. So you have the sunsets over there, water views from this top floor. It really is spectacular. It's brand new. As we mentioned, it's under construction. We're actually going to be doing an open house for it today. If anyone wants to join us, we can do a live for the open house if anyone wants to see it. But otherwise, we can send you the details via email here. This one, the 1-bedroom is starting at $299. It comes furnished and brand new. I think this is a really spectacular deal for somebody who is looking for a brand new product on the island of Caye Caulker. So 50% financing, 8% interest, a 4-year term. Down, you're going to be putting $149,500. Monthly payments are going to be about $3,700, and then no balloon payment because it is a 4-year term, 4-year amortization. So you are able, if you want to put this property, your condo in the rental market, you can do that. You can come and go as you please. You can live here full time. A lot of flexibility with Ruby Villas. Again, 1-bedrooms, and he also has 2-bedrooms on the second and the third floor. If you're interested in this is opportunity number 4 on Caye Caulker. Opportunity number 5, this is at Las Terrazas. Las Terrazas is considered a luxury hotel on Ambergris Caye. It's 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. This one specifically, it's right, if you can follow my cursor, right over in this section of the building, right over here. It's a ground floor unit, and you can walk right out and be at the beach in 30 seconds, or you can go over to the pool. Restaurant is right over here. It's a spectacular property. They host a lot of weddings, events. They just are top notch, take incredible care of the property, and it has a very, very strong rental program. So this one's going for $399, 50% financing, 10-year term, 8% interest. So down, you're putting about $200,000, and then your monthly payments are going to be coming out to about $2,400 a month. And then again, no balloon payment because this is over a 10-year term. And this is opportunity number 5 at Las Terrazas. All right, a couple more for you. So opportunity number 6, this is a prime Ambergris Bay beachfront property. This is located on the west side of the island. This is not even a 5-minute boat ride from the popular heart of Secret Beach, but you're going to be right up here. This is boat access only, but it is a pristine piece of property. You have 2 beaches. That's one of my favorite parts about this property. It has 2 beaches, one on the west side and then one over here on the east side. I mean, as you can see in the picture, it's shallow. This is the perfect water for just getting in your inner tube and enjoying the sun, or just waiting out there, or if you have kids or family members who enjoy the water. It is so calm over here and yet still so refreshing. This seller is willing to finance 50%, 10-year term, 10% interest. So it brings our payments. And so you can see there's a little bit of difference here between this one and the last opportunity, but this one, your payments are going to be about $2,600, because for Las Terrazas, same price, but she has 8% interest. So you can see the monthly payments are about $2,500, where here is about $200 more. But pristine land, this is completely off grid, being in that Secret Beach area, but a really strong potential for a buy and hold as we're continuing to see the west side properties continue to appreciate. No prepayment penalties on this one, or truly on any of the other ones that we've mentioned. And last but not least, we're going to talk about opportunity number 7. And this is the chance to finance a lot and a home. It's a home lot build, pre-construction, 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom. It's a truly top of the line, beautiful canal front community. It includes a lot, as I mentioned. There's the private pool that you see there on the rendering, has a 2nd floor veranda. Solar is also included and more. The first phase is already opening. It has soft open. The official opening for Aruna is going to be April 11th, 2025. And then, of course, when that happens, and there will likely be a price increase, but we're able to see here that the home, including the lot, brand spanking new, is $670,000 if we're rounding up. He's willing to do 40% financing, a 20-year amortization, a 3-year balloon, and 8% interest, but that starts once the property is handed over to you. So during the construction period, you're not paying anything. This starts once the property is complete and handed over to you, which is really unheard of for developers. A lot of times that financing is going to start the month after your contract starts. So this is, or the month after your contract is signed. So this is really cool. Down, you're paying about $400,000, monthly payments of about $2,500, $2,600, and then your balloon payment, as you're going to see, is higher at about $255,000. But what you can do, and what I recommend folks do, is you can start paying down your principal as you're getting rental income coming in. So start paying down your principal so that your monthly payments, or so that your balloon payment rather, is going to be lower at the end of that 3rd year. Again, you also don't need to do a 20-year amortization, so you'd have higher monthly payments and then a lower balloon payment, but that's completely up to you. And that is something the developer is willing to negotiate on. So a prime property with canal being there on the canal front, and then it comes with the pool, it comes with the solar, just a lot of amenities here within the Aruna Resort as well. So we are a little after the half-hour mark. What I'm going to do is offer to you folks this financing calculator. So it's just a simple Excel spreadsheet, but it's already laid out for you in the input section at the top. This is where you can put in the information about the property to be able to run your numbers on it. So you'll be able to see what the monthly payment will be. You'll be able to see what the balloon payment is going to be. If there is a balloon portion to it, I'm happy to send this over to you. Please email us directly, info@lunarealtybelize.com, info@lunarealtybelize.com. That's the best way to get in touch with us. And then our team will be in touch to send this over to you. We have an incredible group of team members with us at Luna. If you're somebody who's looking at real estate down here, please do reach out. We'd love to help you find that ideal piece of property for you. My name is Rachel Jensen. I'm the broker owner of the of the company. I've been in Belize for 13 years, originally from New York, and I made my way down here in 2012. At that time, I had no idea where Belize was. My company, the job I was with, was sending me down here. I looked at pictures online. I said, perfect, send me. And then 13 years later, I am still here. So we are here to help you as well, and to make sure that you find the right property that best suits your needs. And again, if you are somebody who really is thinking about doing this and you are going to need financing, just let us know that too beforehand so that we can make sure we're pulling properties for you that best fill your interests. All right, folks, I really appreciate you joining us. For those of you who are on here live, really appreciate it. It is a Saturday morning, so appreciate you taking your weekend to join us. And we hopefully will see you in paradise at some point. All right, bye everyone. Have a fantastic day. Oh, actually, yeah, I think we got everything there. Have a fantastic day, and I'll look forward to seeing you here in Belize. Bye, everyone.